Hi, everyone. It's Edwin Rutsch from the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'm super pleased here to be with Daryl Davis. Thanks, Daryl, for joining me for a discussion.
Thank you, Edwin. I really appreciate your having me.
So let me give a little background about you. Have some notes here. So you're a musician, an activist, an author, and an actor. And you're well known for your work concerning the Ku Klux Klan, where you kind of reached out to Ku Klux Klan members, befriended them, listened to them. And through that connection, I see here that as many as 200 have left the Ku Klux Klan through that connection. And you've done a lot of interviews, TED Talks. You have a documentary called Accidental Courtesy. And there'll be links down below for that. And so we want to have a bit of a dialogue here about the role of empathy, listening, and dialogue in your life and for social well-being. So anything else by way of introduction you'd like to add?
No, that's fine. It's not just KKK members who have given up the ideology, but other white supremacists as well, neo-Nazis, some alt-right, and just, the racist next door kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. Well, I'm interested in the value of empathy. So I've been working, about 14 years on empathy. How do we create more empathy in society? And we do work with, we have an empathy tent. I don't know if you saw that, but we go out to demonstrations with a political left and right, or sort of battling it out and bring the sides into dialogue. So I was wondering, what is the role, do you see the role of empathy in your work? You haven't talked about it so much, but I'm just kind of wondering what thoughts come to you about that.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Everybody has a story. And in order to connect with these people, I mean, you have to show empathy. It's not, saying that you have to bend over and kiss someone's feet or anything like that, but you have to have the ability to sit back and listen to someone's story, allow them to be heard. Whether you accept what they're saying as your reality doesn't really matter. What matters is their reality. And if you see something that is wrong with it, you can't address it until you know what it is. And so once you know what it is, even though you cannot change their reality, only they can change their reality, because what one perceives becomes one's reality. One's perception is one's reality. So how you go about that is offering them a better perception. And if they resonate with the perception that you have offered, they will then change their own reality. Now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let me just back up a little bit to tell you how I came about finding this out. As a child, I had parents in the US Foreign Service. So I lived abroad during the formative years of my life. You go overseas, you're there for 2 years in some country, you come back home, you're here for a little while, then your dad gets reassigned to another country by the State Department. So back and forth every 2 years. I was an American embassy brat. And I have been, when you combine my childhood travels with my adulthood travels as a musician touring, I have now been in a total of 57 countries on 6 continents. So all that is to say that I have been exposed to a multitude of ethnicities, skin colors, religions, cultures, practices, ideologies, beliefs, etc. And all of that has helped shape who I've become. Now, what I've taken away from that is this: no matter how far I have traveled from my own country, whether it's to a country right next door or some foreign land halfway around the globe, no matter how different the people I encounter may be from me, they don't look like me, they don't speak like me, perhaps they don't worship as I do or believe in the things that I believe in. However, no matter those differences, when I come back home, I always conclude every single person I encountered was a human being. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed is the common denominator are 5 things. I have learned these 5 core values just by traveling and meeting people. It's like, wow, this person on the other side of the earth, we have something in common. These 5 things are this: we all want to be loved. we all want to be respected. We all want to be heard. And we all want to be treated fairly. And we all want the same things for our family as anybody else wants for their family. And if we learn to employ those 5 core values, or any of them, in any society or culture in which we may find ourselves unfamiliar, I can guarantee you the navigation will be much more positive and much more smooth. So I considered the culture, if you will, of white supremacy just to be another culture.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I employ those core values. I will sit back and I will listen to someone tell me how inferior I am, who doesn't even know me, just based on the color of my skin. Now, most people, when you tell somebody something like that, they're going to push back,
Right.
verbally, and then it's going to escalate, and then it becomes physical. And next thing you know, the productivity has devolved. That's the end of it. So I'll give you a situation. For example, I interview these Klan people, and some of them would tell me, "Well, Mr. Davis, black, they see my skin, and I'm asking, how can you hate me? You don't even know me, but yet you're making these judgments about me." Well, Mr. Davis, black people are prone to crime, and that is evidenced by the fact that there are more black people in prison than white people. Now, I'm just sitting here listening to this guy. This guy's calling me a criminal, and he doesn't even know me. He just met me. I'm just interviewing him. All he sees is the color of my skin. I'm listening to him. Now, what he is saying is true. There are more black people in prison than white people. But he's saying that that's because they're prone to crime. So his logic is, well, here's a prison, and prisons are for criminals. And if there are more black people in this prison than white people, well, 2 and 2 makes 4 every time, right? Black people must be more prone to crime than white people. I understand his perception, but his perception is not real, but it's his reality. The reality is our judicial system is kind of in an imbalance that sends more black people to prison than white people who have committed the same crime or no crime. All right, so we have that imbalance that he's not considering. But based on what he sees, I understand his perception. But I don't attack him, I just listen. All right, this is your empathy, hearing somebody out. He goes on to say that black people are inherently lazy, that we prefer to scam the government welfare system. We always have our hands out for a free program, a freebie, whatever, on government assistance. I sit back and listen. Now he's called me lazy. And he goes on to say that black people, and I've heard this a million times with these people, black people are born with a smaller brain than white people who have a larger brain. And the larger the brain, the more capacity for intelligence. The smaller the brain, the lower the IQ. Now, he says that this is evidenced by the fact that year after year, black high school students score lower on the SATs than white kids do. Again, he is correct. I cannot dispute that. The data, the facts, the statistics show that. Black kids do score lower than white kids on the SATs on the national average. So when he sees these facts, he puts that together the same way he put together the prison scenario. That's his perception. Again, his perception is not real. Why do black kids score lower on the whole? Well, where do most black kids in this country go to school? Most black children go to school in the inner city. Where do most white kids go to school? In the suburbs. It's a well-known fact, suburban schools are a lot better than inner city schools. They are better funded, they have higher qualified teachers, they have more money, they have better textbooks, all this, they have more facility, more books and things like that. I will guarantee you, white kids who go to school in the inner city, some of them score just as low as the black kids, some even lower. Black kids who go to school in the suburbs, some of them score just as high as the white kids, some even higher. It has absolutely nothing to do with the student's skin color or the size of his or her brain, but it has everything to do with the quality of the educational system in which that child is enrolled. But I don't attack the guy. I just sit back and listen to him. Okay, I'm trying to understand his perception, and he wants to be heard. Mm-hmm. He wants to be loved, respected, heard, treated fairly, and wants the same thing for his family as I want for mine. So I sit back and listen. Then when he first sees me, when he walks into the room and sees me and sees this, I am not the object of his affection. So his wall goes right up, his temperature rises, and he's ready to attack because he is what's called a white supremacist. He is supreme. And in order for him to feel supreme, he must let me know that he is superior and I am inferior. He has to put me in my place. It's just like, when you're out walking your dog and you encounter somebody walking their dog, one has to show the other who's the alpha dog here on this sidewalk, right? So he has to let me know, his position and my position and get that straight. Otherwise, he is failing in his white supremacy. So I let him do all that. And in the process of my employing those 5 core values, because I'm not pushing back and attacking him, his wall begins to come down. All right. Now, 2 things happen. If I were to attack him because he called me a criminal or called me lazy or tells me my brain is small or whatever, that wall would stay up, or if it came down, it'd go right back up. So I want him to feel relaxed, let him come down, let him be up on his high horse, but let his temperature come down. All right. Now, 2 things happen. 1, he's been heard. I've shown him respect by sitting here listening to him. I've treated him fairly. I let him get out all his points, whatever. Now he feels compelled. Number 2, he feels compelled to reciprocate. I listen to him, now he's going to listen to me. Plus, he's very curious as to why I didn't react the way he expected me to react. Because usually, when he insults Jewish people or he insults Black people or gay people, they react in kind, and he's used to that. So he's used to pushing buttons and he's prepared for those kind of reactions to engage. He's not getting that from me. So now he's curious. I just told this Black guy that he's lazy and that he's a criminal and his brain is small. How come he's not reacting? So his ears are open now. He's ready to receive whatever I want to impart to him. Plus, he's going to reciprocate the respect of listening to me. Now, it's my turn to speak to him and address these issues. I could go on the offense. I could attack him and say, no, you are the criminal. You are the one hanging Black men from trees and bombing Black churches and dragging Black men behind pickup trucks. And I would be 100% correct. The Klan has a 156-year history of doing what I just said, and there's no disputing that. But if I went on the attack like that, that wall would go right back up, his ears would shut down, right? So I just say, listen, I go on the defense, but it's a subtle offense. I said, listen, I hear what you're saying about the prisons, but then I explain to him why that's happening. And I also make another point. Hey, I'm Black as anybody you've ever seen. I don't have a criminal record. I've never been to prison. And furthermore, I've never been on welfare. My parents have never been on welfare. As far as my brain size goes, I've never measured the size of my brain, but I'm sure it's the same size as yours or anybody else's. And also, as far as my SAT scores go, now see, I've already done my homework on him. I've already done my research before I invite him to be interviewed. I know this guy barely made it out of high school, but I'm not going to throw that in his face because then again, the wall will go up, he'd shut me down.
Can I reflect back what I'm hearing so far, just to make sure. So what I'm hearing is you did a lot of travel when you were young, and you connected with a wide variety of people, and you've sort of developed a way of connecting with extremists or other people where you listen to them. You don't like immediately attack them. You kind of listen to hear where they are. In the case of white supremacists, there's a lot of judgments, and instead of reacting to those judgments, you listen to where the person is, where they're coming from. And because you're listening to them, that their defenses go down through that listening. Instead, if you were to attack them, their defenses would go up and it would turn into an argument, but you don't attack them, you listen to them, you hear where they are. And then once they feel heard and understood, it's like they kind of open up more to be willing to listen to you. And then when you're starting to listen, you're able to start addressing the individual points, that the criticisms or the attacks that he's making towards you or others. And then you engage, and you start engaging in a dialogue, and you don't attack him. You just engage sort of step by step with the logic and the reasoning and the rationale that they're using.
My best offense is to defend myself rather than attack him. So, I tell him, listen, my SAT score, now I already know that he barely made it out of high school, but I don't throw that in his face. But I said, my SAT scores got me into college, and I have a bachelor's degree. Both my parents had master's degrees, and my father was working on his PhD before he passed away. Now, see, I'm not attacking him. I'm defending myself, but giving him this information lets him know that we have higher education than he ever dreamed of having. Without throwing that in his face, I'm just talking about myself and my lineage. Okay, so that kind of moots his argument. All right, but one thing you have to do also is two things. One, research your adversaries so that you know how they arrive at this ideology. Find out a little bit more about their personal lives. Are they college graduates? Are they what are they? What environment do they live in that perpetuates and promulgates this type of thinking? All right, and understand one's perception is one's reality. So you can never change anybody's reality, and that's where we spend too much time trying to change somebody's reality. It's not going to work. And that's where we clash. What you do is you come up with better perspectives and perceptions. Mm-hmm. And when they resonate with one of the perceptions that you have put forth, they will change their own reality because their perception becomes their reality. I'm going to give you two examples of what I'm talking about. One hypothetical and one for real life. Let's say that you have a 7 or 8 year old child, a boy. And he goes to a magic show with his friends or his school or whatever. And he comes home and he's telling you what he saw there. And he tells you that this magician on stage asked for a lady volunteer, and 50 women raised their hand, and he picked out one and asked her to come up on stage. And then he put her inside this long box, and he had her stick her feet out that end and her head out that end. And then he closed the lid to the box. So all you saw were the legs and the head. And then the magician took a chainsaw and he went right through the box. He cut that lady in half. Now, to your 7 or 8 year old son, that is real. He knows what he saw. That saw passed through the box and came out the bottom side. And that lady was in there. He saw her feet, he saw her head. Mm-hmm. And then to make it even more real, then he tells you that magician took the half with the legs and moved it over to stage right, and the half with the head and moved it over to stage left. And then he walked over and talked to the head, and the head talked back to him, to the magician. And then he brings both halves back together and opens the lid, and the lady gets out, and she's full form. No blood, nothing. Daddy, this man cut this woman in half and put her back together. And you try to tell him he didn't do that? He's gonna say, I saw it, I was there. I saw him cut the woman in half, right?
And so what I'm hearing, if I can just reflect back. So what I'm hearing there is you can't, if you're engaging with people, you can't deny people's reality, because people's reality is how they see the world. That's and if you're wanting to change perception, attacking that reality, denying the reality, is not the way to sort of change reality.
Precisely.
To change reality, you have to hear
Change
the
their
reality. You hear the reality and then change the perception through, I guess, through dialogue, through.
Exactly. So, and then you tell them, well, what you saw was an illusion. No, it wasn't. I saw it. The soul went through the box and he moved. Her head was over there and her feet were over there. You're attacking his reality. He's telling you what he saw. He was there. You were not there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. He cut her in half, right? So the more you attack the reality, not happening, right? So what you do is you don't attack the reality. You offer him a different perception because, again, one's perception is one's reality. And if he resonates with your perception, he will change his own reality. So you say, well, is it possible, do you think, maybe the woman that he chose out of all those women who raised their hand, maybe she works for him? Excuse me. Maybe he planted her in the audience and she knows the trick and she goes to all the shows with him and pretends to be an audience member. And when she comes up on stage, she plays a role like she's just somebody in the audience. He puts her in the box, and on the floor of the box are 2 dummy legs that have on the same stockings and same shoes she's wearing. And she picks them up and sticks them out the holes. And then she brings her own legs up under her chest. So her whole body is on that half of the box. So when he cuts the box in half and separates them, nothing but dummy legs are over there. Her whole body is over here. So of course she can talk to you. And then when he brings the 2 halves back together, she pulls those legs out of the holes and leaves them on the floor of the box, and then she climbs out. And then your son says, I guess that could be the only way that could work. You've offered him a better perception, and then he changes his own reality. That's how we do it.
So to change people's minds, so if it's white supremacist or any sort of supremacy type, or even extremist sort of a view, any kind of, or even family relationships, I guess, too, for that matter. If you can listen, hear, and then hear the reality of the other person, and then engage in a dialogue and offer alternative viewpoints, but in a sort of a respectful, listening way, where you're not like attacking the person and just sharing from your own perspective, like, oh, this is how is this as a perspective.
What you're doing is you're not debating what the person saw. You're not debating what the person believes. You are simply having a conversation about an alternative possibility. And if that resonates, they then change their own mind. Wow, I never thought about it like that. Yeah, I guess you're right, because that's the only way it can work, because I know you can't cut somebody in half and just stick them back together. So, yeah, you don't debate them. You just have a conversation about alternate perspectives. All right, so that was a hypothetical one. So now, real deal. This Klan leader that I knew, he was going to leave the Klan, I would say, within a year, but he was murdered, and I knew him very well. I knew the murderer. I knew his whole family, and I went to his funeral. And I participated in his funeral. There were 2 funerals, one for the public and one private for just the Klan and Klan members. And I was invited to both. The Klan one because they knew how much he respected me and so forth. So they said, you're welcome to come if you want. And I said, yeah, I'll come. So I came and I participated in their little thing, as well as the bigger one, in which I played some hymns on the piano. I met his parents for the first time. I'd known him for a few years, but I'd never met his parents. I met them at the funeral. His parents were not in the least bit connected with the Klan or white supremacy. They abhorred that crap. They were disappointed that their son was in that movement and even rose to the rank of leader, top guy. But they loved their son, but they were not involved with that kind of stuff. And they were very appreciative of my friendship with them, and they saw a change in him as he and I had become friends. So his father would call me quite frequently following, the funeral, just to talk, and he's crying. And listen, one day he calls me, I'm sitting right here on my couch and my phone rings and it's him and he's crying, the father, and he has a gun in his hand and he's going to go and kill the person who murdered his son. Now his son's an adult and he has 2 adult daughters. He has three children, all grown, and they have kids of their own. Anyway, he's going to go and kill this person. And I said, listen, you can't do that. And I realized I had to appeal to a perception, that would resonate with them. I understood his anger. The murderer had taken his only son in cold blood for no reason, no excusable reason whatsoever. And this man is hurting. He's lost his only son. And he feels like, this person took my son's life, I'm going to go take their life. I got it. All right. Now here's where you have to, when you create a perception, you have to determine, is the individual with whom you're speaking, does this person make their decisions based upon logic, or do they make their decisions based upon emotion? This is very, very important. It's very key to your success. Most of us are wired for one or the other. Just like, most of us are either wired right-handed or left-handed. And then there are a few, like my dad, who was ambidextrous. He could do everything with both hands, all right? But those are few and far between. We're wired to learn either orally or visually. I mean, we have both abilities, but one is dominant over the other. Some people are more visual learners, where others are more oral learners. One is not better than the other. It's just how we are hardwired. So we also are wired as to how we make decisions in our lives. Some of us are wired for more logic, while others are wired for more emotion. And so, like, I might make my decisions, let's say 80% logical and 20% emotional. You might make yours just the opposite, 80% emotional and 20% logic. All right. Doesn't make one of us better than the other. It's just how we're wired. Mm-hmm. So, but you must find out, what is their decision-making process? Is it based on logic, or is it based on emotion? Because if you try to change somebody, but who makes a decision based upon emotion, and you try to change them with a logical argument, it's not going to compute. They don't get it. It'll have no effect on them whatsoever, because their decision-making is based upon emotion. Same thing with somebody who's based on logic. Don't come with an emotional argument. It won't faze them. Like, for example, you take a lawyer, an attorney, or a statistician, somebody an accountant. They want to see the facts. They want to see the data, the scientists. These people make their decisions based upon logic, the stats. What do the stats show? What does the data show? You can't say, well, I feel that no, I don't know how you feel. I want to know what the evidence is. All right. Those people are wired for logic. No emotional argument is going to sway them. All right. So right now, this man is in a state of emotion. He's making his decisions based upon emotion. This person murdered his son. I'm going to go murder this person. All right. So I cannot come to him and say, look, if you do this, everybody's going to know who did it. You're going to be arrested, and you are going to go to prison for murder. And you're going to spend 40 years there.
Yeah, that's the rational kind of
that's the logic.
So you're not appealing, if you appeal to his logic, then you feel that wouldn't work.
No, because he's not making a decision based upon logic. He's making it based upon emotion at this point, right? So, I could say, you're going to be an old man. You're already an old man. You add 40 years to that, you're going to die in prison. He doesn't care about that. All he cares about is, this person murdered my son and does not deserve to live. So this is where he is. Logic is out the window. So I have to appeal to him from an emotional perception, which I did. And what I said was, listen, look, man, you've already lost your son. He's not coming back. You know that. And that's why you don't want that person to come back. But you've lost your son. And if you do this, guess what? You have 2 kids left. You have your 2 daughters, and I named them. I said, you're going to lose them too, because you're going to go to prison and they're not going to be able to see you, because in the prison system, they move you all around the country. and they move you far away from your family to make it hard on you and hard on your family as part of your punishment. You know, if you get locked up in New York and that's where you live, they might stick you in San Quentin out in California, so your family can't come see you. I said, you've lost one son. Now do you want to lose both your daughters?
Mm-hmm.
That was the emotional part.
Yeah, so there you're appealing to his sense of connection and love for the rest of his family.
Precisely.
Right? Like, if you lose that, if you do this, you're going to lose that connection. They're going to lose that connection as well. So you're appealing to the family love there.
That's your empathy.
Yeah,
there's your empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did not go out and do that.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're talking about, you know, white supremacy, and there's a sort of a notion that there's racism and then there's anti-racism. And it seems to me that this approach is a different approach. There's sort of the empathic approach. So it's sort of like empathizing with racism is the way to transform it. I'm just wondering how that resonates with you. That by having an anti-racist viewpoint, that you're creating, it actually is, it's sort of fighting against racism, which kind of accentuates it and kind of builds it up. And if you do like what you're saying, you're empathizing with racism, as well as, you know, with an empathic approach, you'd want to empathize with racists and anti-racists, and then bring the sides together to empathize with each other. And that's sort of what we do with our empathy tent and empathy work, is try to listen to both sides, empathize with the different sides, and then bring them into dialogue. So I'm wondering how that lands with you, what kind of comes up for you around
Absolutely.
that.
I think you're spot on. But also what I do is this, the term anti-racist has taken on different connotations over the last few years. And some of them are very negative, because some of the anti-racists are just as bad as the racists. You know, they're engaging in the same activity, destroy those people, you know, and the racists are saying the same thing about everybody else, right? So, you know, to be called an anti-racist, depending upon what the connotation is or somebody's perception of the word is, can cause you some problems. What I prefer to use the term is pro-human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pro-human, and we all are humans, and I want to advance humanity. Now, I would say that my pro-human approach is anti-racism, the ideology, but not anti-racist. Mm-hmm. I'm not against the person, I'm against that person's ideology. So a little bit of some,
there's subtle word differences. These words pack different meanings in them, and you don't know what the meaning is that people are saying, and that makes it kind of difficult to.
Exactly, and you know, another term is Black Lives Matter. So some people perceive it and say, "Oh, so Black Lives Matter, huh? Well, what about white lives? I mean, my life matters. I'm white, so if Black lives can matter, my white life can matter too." So, you know, they're perceiving it as, you know, this is a reverse racism organization. You know, it's one's perception becomes their reality. And so you say to them, so then they, you know, they start either printing out T-shirts that say white lives matter, which I've seen, or all lives matter, which I've seen also. You know, well, Black lives matter. Well, all lives matter. Asian lives matter. Gay lives matter. Blah blah blah. So you say, well, to the person who has that mentality, you say, well, what is it in particular that you dislike about the phrase, those three words, Black Lives Matter? Well, it doesn't say anything about white lives. I'm white, doesn't my life matter? Okay, so that's why you don't support Black Lives Matter. That's right. Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you support Blue Lives Matter? Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, the cops have to be here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, so you don't support Black Lives Matter because they don't say anything about white lives, but yet you support Blue Lives, which also doesn't say anything about white lives. They're saying blue. Where do you see white in there? Oh, well, I guess you got a point, you know? So
again, you're using your methodology. You have sort of an approach where you listen to the person, hear them out, And then you engage in sort of the logic or the discussion or the emotional aspects to hear, and then through that sort of find connection with them to change perspectives again. So that's the same sort of a model there.
And you do it, without getting angry and getting, confrontational. Because, we spend in this country, we spend way too much time talking about the other person, or talking at the other person, or talking past the other person. All we need to do is just spend a few minutes talking with the other person. And, if you spend 5 minutes with your worst enemy, you're going to find something in common. And if you spend 10 minutes, you're going to find even more. You start off here. There's a big, chasm there. And so you spend 5 minutes talking, you're at the opposite ends of the spectrum, white supremacist Black man. And you talk for 5 minutes, that gap closes because you found some commonality. And so you talk some more, it closes some more. Now you're in a relationship. You may not be agreeing with each other, but you're in a relationship. You're in civil conversation, right? Keep on talking, and the gap closes more. And now you're heading towards a friendship. And when you get to this point, the trivial things that you had in contrast, because you found so much in common at this point, the trivial things that you have in contrast, such as skin color, or whether you go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or a temple, begin to matter less and less, because they're seeing the humanity. And this is what I'm talking about a pro-human approach, as opposed to an anti-racist approach.
Well, I'm so moved by the work you do. I use your story all the time, because it's such a model. Because with the empathy work that we do, it's exactly about what you're talking about. It's like, how do we see our common humanity? How do we sit down, have those dialogues, have some tools and some practices for hearing each other out? And, I advocate for that empathic approach. And your story is just such a great story to as a model for that. So I have huge gratitude I feel very touched by the work that you do, because it's so meaningful. So just want to let you know that it means a lot to me.
I appreciate it. Let me give you an example of something, and maybe you already know this. So what county are you in?
I'm in Contra Costa. It's in San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, Contra Costa County. Okay, what's a neighboring county, one that borders Contra Costa?
Alameda.
Alameda. Okay, so let's just hypothetically say that a father and son are driving from Alameda County to Contra Costa County. And right on the county line, their car crashes with a tractor trailer that jumped the median or something. And both father and son are seriously injured. But because it happened on the county line, both Alameda and Contra Costa respond to the scene. And the Alameda ambulance takes the father to Alameda Memorial Hospital. He's in bad shape. The Contra Costa rescue squad takes the son to Contra Costa General Hospital. Son is in critical condition. He needs an operation immediately or he's gonna die. So he's in the OR. The doctor rushes in to operate, takes one look and says, I cannot operate on him, that's my son. How do you explain that?
That someone feels so deeply connected to someone that they feel too emotional to be able to work logically on them.
Well,
sure.
by law, a doctor cannot perform an operation on their family member for that very reason. So how do you explain what was said there? Let me run it by you again.
Yeah, maybe run it by me again. I was actually kind of so moved by just, I was kind of like losing it, because I'm just very moved by the work that you do, and I was kind of in that space. So.
Okay, so
I'll reflect back what I'm hearing you say as you say it. That'll help me follow it.
All right, so a father and son are driving from Alameda to Contra Costa.
Okay, so I got that they're right on the borderline, and one is going in one county and the other is going the other county, and they're both going to the OR.
Right.
And in
And
one
so
OR that
the son
uh-huh.
needs an immediate operation.
Okay.
You know, he's losing blood, everything. So the doctor rushes in to operate and takes one look and says, I cannot operate on him. That's my son.
But it doesn't quite make sense to me, because it wasn't the father and son or in the accident, and they're in different counties.
Yes, they are.
And why would it be the son? The father is doing the operation. You're gonna have to run. That's
okay. All right. So let me run it by you one more, again. Okay. Father and son driving from Alameda County to Contra Costa. Right on the county line, they have a severe accident. Both are severely injured. Alameda takes the father to Alameda Hospital. Contra Costa takes the son to Contra Costa Hospital, and the son needs an operation immediately. He needs blood. He needs everything. The doctor rushes in to operate and takes one look and says, "I cannot operate on him. That's my son." Who is the doctor?
Who's the doctor? The guy has two fathers, or it's the person? Yeah, that doesn't make. I don't get it. So
okay, now what would you say if I told you that you have a prejudice, a bias? You're a biased person. What would you say?
Well, bias I see as a form of judgment, and I think I'm kind of like swimming in judgment, and so I think people swim in the whole culture is sort of swims in judgment. So it's possible, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a doctor?
I do, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your doctor.
She's from Russia.
Hold on. I said doctor. I didn't say nurse. I said doctor.
Yeah, it's a she.
Wait a minute. Are there a she doctor? Are you sure it's not a nurse practitioner?
I'm sure, yeah.
You're positive it's a doctor?
It's a physician, yeah.
You believe that female doctors exist?
I do, yeah.
Really? It's interesting. Is she the only female doctor that you've ever seen, or that you are aware of?
No, I know a lot of female doctors.
You really know a lot of female doctors?
Yeah.
Really? Now, again, I'm not talking about nurses or nurse practitioners. A nurse practitioner is very close to a doctor.
Right. Yeah, my partner is an infectious disease nurse, so
okay.
But yeah.
But you're talking about a bona fide MD who's a female.
Right.
Okay. Father and son are driving from Alameda to Contra Costa. They crash on the county line. They both are injured severely. Both jurisdictions respond. The paramedics from Alameda take the father to Alameda Hospital. The people from Contra Costa take the son to Contra Costa Hospital. And the son is in dire need of an operation immediately, or he's going to die. So the doctor rushes in to operate and takes one look and says, I cannot operate on him. That's my son. Who is the doctor?
You said it was his father.
I said father and son are going to the
a father and a son, not the father of the son. So
let's say a father and his biological son.
We're gonna nail this.
Yeah, they share DNA. Okay, and they're going from Alameda to Contra Costa, and they have the accident. The biological father goes to the Alameda, and the biological son goes to Contra Costa. The doctor rushes in to operate and looks at the patient and says, I cannot operate on him. That's my son.
Oh, so it was the father his father is a doctor. No, I'm not getting this. You're gonna have to explain it to me. So
okay, well, when I explain it to you, you're gonna feel bad.
Okay, yeah.
But I will have empathy for you.
Okay, you'll have sympathy. Empathy is where you sense into the pain I have for the struggling. The sympathy is where you sort of feel sorry for.
Okay, let's go back to your doctor for a second. What's her name?
Edwin. Oh, my name? Her
name? No. Your doctor's name.
Risa.
I'm sorry, Teresa?
Risa.
Okay, Risa. And you're positive that Risa is a female doctor. There's no doubt in your mind. She is a bona fide doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you had Risa?
A couple of years.
Do you know anything? Does she have any kids?
Yes, one child.
Have you seen that child?
I haven't.
Do you know what that child is? Boy or girl?
I think it's a boy, but I'm not sure. I can't.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere, maybe. So the doctor rushes in and takes one look and says, I cannot operate on him. That's my son.
Oh, the doctor. It could be, of course, it's a female doctor, right? So I had the perception that it was the.
And who is the doctor?
The doctor is the mother, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I had all these preconceived notions.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you got me. Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to get you. I mean, it was a bona fide question.
No,
right?
that's a fair. Yeah.
Okay. So your reality now. Consciously, you are not biased against females. But subconsciously, subliminally, you showed a bias against women. I didn't say he rushed in. I said the doctor rushed in to operate and took one look and said, I cannot operate on him. That's my son. But yet you're going to make every excuse to make it a man. Yeah. Even though I asked you, do you have a doctor? And you said, yeah, you got a female doctor. You know a bunch of female doctors. But you would not go there because of that bias.
That's true. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is very important. While we have to listen to and have empathy for these people, because their reality is their reality. They only know what they know, and consciously they may know something is wrong, but subconsciously they have some kind of bias in them. Like, okay, now I'll give you another example of something. What kind of cat crosses your path is bad luck? A black cat, right? So supposedly, we've heard that before, right? Also, you've heard of black magic, and you've heard of white magic. The black magic is the evil magic. In the Wizard of Oz, you had the black witch and the white witch. One was good, one was evil. In the old westerns, the bad guy wore black. You look at the Lone Ranger. Lone Ranger wore a white hat and a white mask and rode a white horse, named Silver. And if you're playing pool, the game, billiards, whatever, the good ball is a little white ball known as the cue ball. All the other balls are different colors. And the idea is to knock each ball into the pockets. The one ball you stay away from is the 8 ball. And what color is the 8 ball? Black.
So what I'm hearing there is you're wanting that we have these sort of biases in our mind. Like I immediately, for some reason, associated the doctor with the male. I could have said, oh, of course it's his mother, because, and it was sort of set up because it was the father and son somehow. Yeah, that I'm surprised now that I think about it. Like, why didn't I think about that? But see,
that's why it's subliminal. And see, these people also, it's in their head, but they don't know why they don't think about it either.
Yeah.
So and then if you get put on a list not to be hired, you've been blacklisted or blackballed, right? If somebody knows something about you or takes compromising pictures of you and wants to extort money from you so they don't release this information, you have been blackmailed. Okay, so black always has a negative connotation. White is always good. When you get married, whether you're a virgin or not, the bride wears white. You go to a funeral, we all wear black. The only time it's good to be black is when you're dealing with money. It's better to be in the black than be in the red, right? That's the only time. Otherwise, black is negative. And so when you've grown up with all these adages, black cat crosses your path, the black magic, the white magic, if you to tell a lie is bad, but if you tell a little white lie, it's okay. What about a black lie? Oh, that must be really bad.
There's these subtle sort of concepts and ideas and seeing the world in a perspective that affects our affects our ability to hear and see sort of in this unbiased kind of an open way.
Exactly. So now, you're older like myself, and we grew up around mostly male doctors in our day as children. On TV, we saw male doctors, Dr. Ben Casey, Dr. Kildare, Dr. Marcus Welby, and whatever commercial we were in, 4 out of 5 doctors recommend blah, blah, blah. All these 4 out of 5 were men. Today, there are plenty more female doctors. If you were to give that example to some 12 or 15-year-old kid, boy or girl, the same example I gave you about the father and son, they would just say, duh, it's the mom, because they have had exposure to more female doctors than we grew up with. So we had that bias implanted in us just by our surroundings. We were surrounded more with male doctors, even though you have a female doctor already in your head.
They've all been female. All of my doctors have been female for 15 years.
But you wouldn't go there. but you still wouldn't go there.
I know, it's weird. It's just very strange. Yeah, I'm kind of like pondering that. Like I didn't have that awareness.
Exactly. Well, don't worry. It'll never happen again. Now you've got it straight. So you've been cured. This call cured you. So now, when we deal with somebody that we perceive as racist, we have to figure out, is this person truly a bona fide racist? Or is it that they have some subliminal bias, but consciously they're not racist? Maybe because they grew up with all this black cat, black magic, black this, black that. So, if I'm walking down the street and some white people are walking up the street and they see me and, it's 11 o'clock at night or something, they might have a little trepidation because black is negative. But if they recognize
deep in there,
right, exactly. But if they recognize me, oh, it's Daryl. Hey, Daryl, how you doing? And they give me a big hug. Recognition calms all that down. But if I was a white guy, they wouldn't have that trepidation. That's because the media, everything we have, conveys black as being something negative, whether it's a cat or my skin color or whatever. So this is why we have to figure out, if we perceive somebody to be racist, let's figure out, are they truly racist, or is it some buried subliminal nonsense going on in their head, like the doctor example? We know you're not biased against females.
Well, we only have about 9 minutes left. I did want to talk a little bit about the empathy circle work that we do. So, I've been working on this empathy. We have this tent. I don't know if you saw the documentary. There's a documentary, Trump Phobia, which shows our empathy tent, how we go out and listen to both sides, the conservatives and liberals, Antifa and the extremists on the right, try to bring them together in dialogue. And the basic process, you've got a model for how you approach listening to others, which you just beautifully explained. And so the approach that we do is this empathy circle. We try to bring small groups of people together and use empathic listening, where one person will have maybe 4 people in a circle, in a group, and one person speaks on whatever topic or whatever's alive for them, and they select who they speak to, and they speak a bit, and then they get a reflection from the listener to reflect back what they heard, and then they speak, and they check out, was I understood, correctly? Then they speak some more, and then they get a reflection. We have like a time limit, maybe 5 minutes or so, and then when that is up, the listener becomes the speaker and select someone to speak to, and we go, with that. Right. And so using that empathic listening is sort of a way to bring people together, to have some tools for how do you actually hold these dialogues. I think that's sort of what's missing, that if we had sort of tools like this in the schools, and even bringing, like, we had some people from the far right come to San Francisco after Charlottesville, and the whole city of San Francisco is in an uproar, and we reached out and invited them to an empathy circle and some counter organizers, demonstrators, and had these empathic dialogues. So what we're trying to do is hold more of these, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in maybe taking part in some of those, if we could get some people from the Black Lives Matter, or the more extremist groups, or just any kind of polarized communities, where we can bring them together to hold these type of dialogues together.
An excellent resource that are very very astute about this is the forum on which I spoke, where you met me, the Common Ground Committee. Mm-hmm. They would be an excellent resource for that, because that's their mission. I can't say enough good things about them, of bringing people together for these types of conversations. they could probably even facilitate a lot of that for you. I would
we do the
definitely keep them in the
facilitation.
loop.
We've got a lot of experience. We have these trainings that we do where we train people on how to do this process and how to be facilitators. And I'm wondering, if you were to bring some people together, who would you bring together? Who do you think are good people to bring together into having these type of dialogues? The one you had with Ryan was Ryan Laurie, who I also had a discussion with, recorded. And so he's already moved out of the extremist position, right? So you were just talking, you weren't like speaking with some extremists on any sides, but who would you want to have a dialogue with or want to bring together in some kind of dialogues?
Any number of them. Doesn't matter to me. KKK, alt-right, neo-Nazis, whatever, or just your typical run-of-the-mill racist. Anybody, with those types of views, we need to come together and have these conversations as opposed to debates. Like I was saying on the Common Ground Committee forum, that no solution is achieved without a conversation.
Yeah, and then also, like in the movie, something that stood out with your accidental courtesy. There was a time where you were sitting down with two Black Lives Matter members in a cafe, and that got kind of heated too. And when I was seeing that, I thought, oh, a little empathy circle right here would have been helpful, where you could speak, and then they would reflect back their understanding of what you said, and vice versa. So I'm just
actually, let me give you a little follow-up on that. You only saw 8 minutes of that. It went on for about an hour. It almost got physical. And they were very hot under the collar about my work. However, to their credit, a year later, they reached out to me and wanted to get together and talk because they'd see me be interviewed. They had a better perception, if you will, of what I do. And so we wanted to figure out ways we could work together. So I agreed to meet, and we went and we had dinner together. And it went very well. We began working together. And the older guy, he fell off the wagon, so to speak. Eventually, he reverted back to the character that you saw in the accidental courtesy. So it's just like an alcoholic. Some people, they get on the wagon. Sometimes they fall off. They got to get back up and get on. Right now, he's fallen off the wagon. The younger guy, I think he's still on.
Well, would people like that? Do you think they'd be good to be talking with extremists in an empathy circle?
No, they would not be good.
They would not,
because they are extremists.
They wouldn't be willing to talk, or they just wouldn't be able to talk? Do you feel?
Both.
Okay.
Both. But then if you put somebody like that together, it would be very contentious, as you saw. We would need to have more conversations, and they would need to become better educated on how to get their points across without attacking, and how to listen to people without getting emotional about it. You got to learn to keep your emotions behind you. Just like I'm sitting there with the head of the Klan telling me that I'm lazy and that I'm a criminal and that I'm stupid because my brain is small. Most people want to push back when they hear stuff like that. You have to know who you are, and
you have to be well grounded.
Exactly. Be confident in your own skin, and don't let your emotions get in front of you and devolve the conversation. They're not quite there yet. Those particular people. Now there are other Black Lives Matter people who would be amenable to the idea.
So would you be available for like a dialogue like that with the?
It depends upon when it is. My schedule is really crazy, but keep me in mind, keep in touch, and let me know. But definitely check out the Common Ground Committee, because they have a lot to offer.
Yeah, well, I've connected with them before too. Yeah.
Okay.
So this, I find that this is a container that can hold a lot of conflict. We've had like Identity Europa group take part. We had like 5 members. We set up an empathy tent at a right-wing rally, had 5 of their members come in and had actually an empathy. So we had a Jewish member, they're wanting to deny the Holocaust. And we had this, it was a bit of a struggle, but it actually
Yeah.
a container that can hold a lot of these
Yeah.
type of conversations.
And this is what needs to be done. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it.
So I am so grateful for the work you're doing, Daryl. Thank you for taking the time to discuss, and I'll reach out if we can hold maybe some circles to sort of model this would be great. And
Sure.
can't say enough.
Sure. Thank you, and let me know when you have this all recorded and stuff, and it's up.
Okay, I'll send you a link to this. So thanks again.
Thank you, Edwin. Take good care.
Bye.